Hey, welcome back, everybody. Happy Tuesday it is, and it is also July 9th. So, starting to work on through July here pretty quickly, unfortunately, and I guess fortunately for those of you that are now done with what was Hurricane Beryl yesterday. But now, unfortunately, we have Tropical Depression, kind of remnant low barrel that is not done causing problems across much of the country here. And we're going to likely, unfortunately, continue a tornado outbreak that we started yesterday back towards Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Today, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Tennessee. Going to get in on that action, and maybe even a couple other areas could see an isolated tornado or two. And that's really the big time story for today's video is the ongoing impacts from Beryl in the tornado department, also the flooding department, going to see some problems there. And also going to talk about the chance for some drought relief, maybe into this weekend through sections of the mid-Atlantic and southeast. They could get in on potentially some pretty big rainfall, and we'll talk about the chances for that in today's video. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it, and comment. Let me know where you're watching from, what you're doing this summer, and if you have any cool plans coming up. Always fun to engage with y'all there in the comments. So, with that said, I don't want to take too much time in today's video, so let's go ahead and start talking about everything. Now, satellite imagery, you'll notice Beryl is really a shell of itself, but here working over portions of Arkansas today, and we'll continue to work off towards the north and east throughout the day. But what you'll notice is this big shield of kind of cloud cover being advected northward here from Beryl, and we're actually seeing some pretty good rainfall currently up into this portion of your map from Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and eventually that shield of rain will work off towards Michigan and even portions of the Northeast going into tonight and into tomorrow. So again, really 2 big days left for Beryl today and tomorrow. Then after that, like I mentioned, maybe a little bit of tropical mischief, rainfall mischief down into the southeast and mid-Atlantic going into this weekend. So not completely quiet after Beryl is gone. Again, still some things that we're going to be watching out for. All right, current radar and our advisories out there. Again, like I mentioned, a big old shield of rain here, even still into northern Arkansas, Missouri, southern Illinois, and then right into the heart of Indiana this morning. And really just a good old-fashioned soaking rain. Not super heavy rain, but definitely pockets of heavier rain embedded in there with some gustier winds, but just kind of non-stop rain throughout much of today. But it's going to be on the more dry side that we're currently seeing in this region that is going to have more of that tornado threat today. And I'll show you that map here in just a moment. And then we'll really dive into that risk for some tornadoes this afternoon and evening, and then again into tomorrow as well. Now, for those of us that are not lucky enough to be getting any rain from Beryl, unfortunately, just due to the flow around this low pressure, we're getting big time moist air advection into the eastern half of the country, and that is making it feel just like a wet blanket outside, unfortunately. So heat advisories up from Boston all the way down the I-95 corridor through Raleigh, into Columbia, South Carolina, Charleston, Macon, Georgia, Birmingham, Charlotte, Greensboro, Norfolk, Richmond, D.C., Philly. Again, just about everyone here on the East Coast, all the major cities, under those heat advisories for very hot temperatures today. And in fact, we have excessive heat warnings in effect for kind of the heart of West Virginia here. Anybody watching from the Charleston, West Virginia area, again, very hot today. So make sure you're staying hydrated. Anywhere that you're in kind of these orange boxes, but really anywhere in the eastern half of the country or just about anywhere in the country in general, it's going to be a hot summer day outside of those of us that are getting that rainfall. So again, need to watch out for that. Also, what I will show you is we do have some flood watches in effect here from Michigan all the way down through St. Louis, Springfield, Chicago under some flood watches, and into northern Arkansas, again, for the threat of some flash flooding with all of this rain from Beryl. And then out west, again, don't really talk about the weather out here too often, but it's hot and fire danger is a concern out there as it is very dry as well. So just going to note that very quickly here at the beginning of the video. All right, today's severe weather threat, again, tornadoes are the big concern in this area along the Ohio River Valley from Nashville all the way up through Louisville, Paducah, Kentucky, down into southern Indiana, portions of Ohio, southern Illinois, really going to be under the gun for, honestly, probably a tornado outbreak if we're counting what we saw yesterday. Definitely a tornado outbreak, but a continuation of this. Probably, honestly, more than 5 to 10 tornadoes are going to touch down today as kinematics are really primed up just like yesterday, and we're getting enough dry air to kind of ingest into the storm that is helping to allow instability to kind of rebuild through some of these areas. And anytime you see that with a tropical low, that just spells a lot of trouble. I can tell you from firsthand experience, I've seen that here in the Carolinas, and it's just a perfect recipe for a tornado outbreak, albeit not super strong tornadoes, generally EF1, EF0, but a couple of EF2s and maybe even an isolated EF3 could mix in here. It's happened before. It probably happened yesterday. I would imagine we had at least 1 or 2 EF2s. So again, don't let your guard down there. Also, some stronger storms out here into New England from Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, up the I-95 corridor towards Bangor, Maine. Could see a couple strong storms. Straight line winds and some hail are the main threats up there, with some storms that could fire off this afternoon. And then, the tornado threat is the bigger deal today, so a 5% chance of a tornado within a 25-mile radius. In fact, I wouldn't even oppose this being a 10%, kind of right in the bullseye here as well. I will also mention, I think the green could probably even get extended a little bit further south here into northern Mississippi and Alabama and into southern Tennessee there, sorry. A lot on the brain today, so geography maybe isn't quite at its usual skill level. But again, tornado threat, the biggest deal today, and like I said, I would even probably extend that 2% down a little bit further south, and I'll show you why here with some of our latest model guidance. All right. So I'm going to show this to you. This is about the time that probably an hour or two after I'm recording this. I'm recording this about 9 a.m. This is a little closer to noon here. But again, low pressure working over portions of Arkansas, getting up through northeastern Arkansas and into southeastern Missouri this afternoon. And you'll notice where we have that bullseye still all dry. And unfortunately, that's kind of the problem, is the atmosphere isn't, it's not necessarily super unstable today by any means, but it's also not stable. So we're going to see, some lift and some storms here right along this low pressure swing up into this area. And we're going to see the chance for some tornadoes because of that this afternoon. So here we go. Notice getting past the noon hour Central Time, some little isolated embedded storms begin to fire up. And again, even notice some of these kind of are a little bit further outside, that 2% risk. Now, once you kind of get south and into this box I have drawn, chances are a little bit lower of a tornado. Kinematics or wind shear are a little less favorable compared to right here along the Ohio River Valley. But again, some of these other storms could begin to slightly rotate, so do not let your guard down if you're not necessarily in that 2% risk this afternoon. And, we move this ahead into time, and it just kind of continues into this afternoon and evening. Just these isolated kidney beans right along the Ohio River Valley, swinging on in here. Again, notice how this isn't kind of embedded in a shield of rain. These are, little pins or little dots on your map, and that tells me that, unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit easier for these storms to begin to rotate compared to maybe even what we saw yesterday, where a lot of those storms were just kind of clouded and in a shield of rain. The good news about this, though, is this should make the storms a little bit more viewable to the naked eye, so I'm sure a lot of storm chasers are going to get some pretty impressive photos and videos today. Now, the other side of this, again, the tornado threat is kind of on, this side of that line I just drew. But on the northern side, we're also getting just a big old shield of rain with a lot of rainfall. So, if you live up into St. Louis, central Illinois, Indiana, obviously watch that on your map. It's going to rain, but I'm really just going to talk about, at least in depth, about the tornado threat here. So, again, moving this further ahead into time, those little kidney beans continue working on through Kentucky, Tennessee, southern Indiana, and eventually into the evening tonight and into the overnight, that tornado threat continues. Again, look at this impressive, line of showers and storms that have the chance to rotate from southern Indiana all the way down, again, potentially into northern Alabama. So, like I mentioned, do not let your guard down in this area, even if you aren't necessarily in that 2% risk for tornadoes. I wouldn't be surprised to see a warning even further south out of that. Good news is, as we go further into the overnight, that threat begins to die down a little, although we could have a small nocturnal tornado threat there through Kentucky and southern Ohio before this storm system really begins to lift northward. And by the time we're getting into Wednesday afternoon here, much nicer conditions through much of the Ohio River Valley. All right, tornado ingredients today. Again, you'll notice really picking up this afternoon. And again, like I mentioned, I'm going to continue to say it, even if you're not in that 2% risk area, you are probably close enough here into northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, and southern Tennessee that you're going to want to keep an eye open on the threat for those strong storms today. But obviously, definitely into the Ohio River Valley as well. And again, those ingredients just continue working on in this afternoon. Stay strong even into the overnight a little bit before once getting past kind of the midnight hour, things really calm down and those ingredients for tornadoes really level off going into tomorrow morning and especially tomorrow afternoon, much nicer conditions. All right, don't need that one open. I'm going to go ahead and close that real quick for us. Flooding threat today. Again, we do have the chance of some excessive rainfall from really Little Rock all the way up through St. Louis, Springfield, Indianapolis, Gary, Indiana, Chicago. Again, could see more than enough rainfall throughout the day today with this big shield of rain. And obviously, 3 inches of rain during one day, potentially upwards of 5 inches in isolated spots, is more than enough to cause problems. So, here's the rainfall map. Do what you want with that information. Just be prepared. Could see some flooding in those flood watch areas I showed you earlier on in the video. All right, very briefly going to show you the Midwest. Again, just really a rainfall concern. This is about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Again, raining good here into Illinois, Indiana, St. Louis. But then rain begins to pick up into southern Michigan. I know we've got a couple viewers here in Michigan. Detroit getting in on some pretty good rainfall throughout much of this central and southern Michigan, really picking up on rain overnight tonight, heavy at times, and winds could even be a tad gusty at times as well, so need to watch out for that. Waking up Wednesday morning, again, more of the same, a lot of rain through northern Indiana, much of the state of Michigan outside of the Upper Peninsula there, but again, the mitten of Michigan, just a lot of rain on and off throughout overnight tonight, even throughout the day Wednesday, before finally clearing up going into overnight Wednesday and into Thursday. Nicer conditions usher in, and that storm system begins to pull away. Rainfall totals here. Again, we could see some flooding concerns here through much of central and southern Michigan. 3 to 5 inches of rain, very possible through from tonight through tomorrow night. Again, going to rain pretty good there. So got to have a way to get those watches and warnings. Should a flood warning or flash flood warning be issued for your area, just got to be prepared for that potential and have a plan to get to higher ground if you're in a flood-prone area especially. All right, that gets us to tomorrow, another day with some storm potential and tornado potential, especially pretty similar threat level to today, but a different area tomorrow. Tomorrow, the Pennsylvania-New York border here going to be the real hotspot. Again, I think very well could see a continuation of a tornado outbreak tomorrow. Could see multiple tornadoes in this area, and I'll show you why here with our future radar in that area. So all dry in the northeast outside of these afternoon storms today, which I will quickly show you as well. Again, this is why we have that marginal risk today. Look at some of these cells coming off the mountains of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Again, hail could be an issue, strong straight line winds. Tornado threat pretty low here. I'm just going to take a sounding out of my own curiosity here. Yeah, so again, might not even be able to completely rule out a tornado threat today. I'd call it a non-zero threat. A little bit of curvature in the photographs here, so we'll watch out for that. 3 Cape relatively low. LCL heights pretty high though, so tornado threat very low today up here, but call it non-zero. Hail though will be a pretty, I think, potent threat here. Could see some quarter-size hail with any of these storms this afternoon, and obviously some gusty winds. So if you're up there, definitely watch out for that here for our Tuesday afternoon. But that's really just the appetizer for what is on the way. So waking up Wednesday morning here, again, all dry through the northeast, but going into the afternoon, here comes the remnants of Beryl. And once we get towards peak heating, again, that low pressure center back over kind of Lake Erie here is going to allow, enough lift here that we're going to get some storms to fire anywhere from upstate New York down through Pennsylvania, and this is where we're going to have the highest tornado threat for our Wednesday. So again, any of these little individual cells you see here going to have the chance to rotate as they swing on through Pennsylvania and New York State throughout Wednesday afternoon, and even don't be surprised to see some stronger storms as well down here through the Harrisburg area, down through Baltimore, Washington D.C. A little bit less of a tornado threat the further south you get. Again, the biggest threat for tornadoes is going to be in this circled area, but could see storms to the south of there, and those two could have a chance of rotating, just a lesser chance than the ones to the north. So watch out for that though. But again, a potent line of storms with tornado potential through the afternoon and the evening hours here swinging on through, and then eventually fizzling out into the overnight Thursday, and by the time, the overnight Wednesday into Thursday, and by the time we're waking up Thursday morning, nicer conditions overtake for much of the area, although I think scattered showers are going to be a pretty big possibility Thursday afternoon, and potentially still a leftover tornado threat into New England come Thursday, although lesser than probably what we're going to see today and tomorrow. All right, tornado ingredients for tomorrow. Again, this is tomorrow morning. You'll notice some of those ingredients begin to pick up a tad, but really blossom during the afternoon hours. Again, from Pennsylvania, specifically central Pennsylvania, up into central New York State. And those ingredients, again, going to be quite strong throughout the day, Wednesday and even into overnight Thursday before, again, we kind of pass the midnight hour and those ingredients die down before Thursday afternoon. Again, another kind of increase of those ingredients into New England, as I mentioned. All right, rainfall for the Northeast, luckily a little bit less than maybe what we thought a couple days ago. I think a week or so ago, maybe not quite that long, but about 4 days ago probably, it looked like a bit of a higher flash flooding threat through this part of the country. Now a little bit lower, but still cannot let your guard down, especially into upstate New York and into the higher terrain of Vermont and New Hampshire. Could see some pretty impressive rainfall totals that could lead to isolated flooding spots, so we'll have to watch out for that. All right, final topic for today's video is the chance that, maybe this weekend the Carolinas and Mid-Atlantic can finally squeeze out some meaningful rainfall that could help to relieve some of the drought concerns that we are currently dealing with. So I'll go ahead and stop this at Thursday. This is this coming Thursday, so, only 2 days from now, given today's Tuesday. And you'll notice here's what's left over of Beryl up at the top of your map, but down south, we've got a little bit of a kink in our isobars indicating some low pressure trying to develop here somewhere off the southeast coastline, kind of on the edge of this Bermuda High. So this is eventually going to get kind of shoved into Georgia and southern South Carolina, kind of similar to what we saw a couple weeks ago. You'll remember we had a wave move through. This one, though, looks to have a lot more moisture with it. And you'll notice this begins to kind of spin up a little bit right off the Carolina coast and moves inland somewhere from Georgia to South Carolina. And here's Friday afternoon. You'll notice, due to this and all this onshore flow, we're getting some widespread rainfall from Virginia down through North Carolina and South Carolina. And this could be, pretty widespread as well, as we're going to have, a lot of that Atlantic moisture kind of thrown inland. So we'll definitely need to watch out for that here. Our latest ensembles kind of give it a pretty good shot of seeing some rainfall here. This is our European ensemble members, and look at this Friday afternoon at seeing the odds of seeing at least an inch of rain. We're crossing 50% here through the I-95 corridor of North Carolina, from Raleigh up through Richmond and even down into coastal South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, the Florence area of South Carolina. Seeing the chances for rain pick up as this moves inland. Unfortunately, it's going to be less chance for the Western Carolinas. This looks like more of an Eastern Carolina chance. But we'll watch the trends. If this becomes a little bit more of a vigorous wave, then, we could see higher chances of that rain making it further inland. But either way, we need it. I mean, we are from, moderate drought to widespread areas of severe drought through the Carolinas and much of the Southeast, from Virginia, again, all the way down to Georgia and Florida. So any rain we can get will be good rain, and we will hope that we can definitely squeeze out some of that rain here with this setup going into this weekend. So, yeah. With all that said, though, I do appreciate y'all watching again. If you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it, and comment. Let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing in your neck of the woods. Alrighty, y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll see you all tomorrow.